This is like the third time I'm trying to record this, so bear with me. I wanted to talk about, as the title entails, trauma. And what is trauma? To dumb it down, trauma is an experience or memory that you don't forget. You don't choose what traumatizes you. It just, to put it simply, it just does. And you spend time trying to work your way around it, trying to overcome it, if you will. Some are successful and some are not. Some are harder than others. Trauma is somewhat of like a bad memory. It triggers if you're, nearby the area where that trauma occurred, or you're around the people who were a part of that trauma, or maybe even seeing an object or interacting with an object that was a part of that trauma, or engaging in an activity that was related to the trauma. All of those can be triggers. And forgive me if I'm taking a while to say my words. I'm taking the time, choosing my words carefully, simply because I am afraid. I am nervous of talking about this, because when I do, as I said in the beginning, you tend to relive it. Or not relive it, but you tend to remember it. And what I'm talking about is, I talked about it in a previous video about almost a year ago, and it was called Perspective on Parents. I dove into a little bit of my relationship with my own birth parents. To put it simply, my birth mother was never around. She left me and my brothers when I was 2. My dad's took care of us financially, but through my memories and my recollection, he was not around much. He was busy working. As I got older, I started to accept the truth, and it was a hard truth to bear, or to accept, that a lot of children struggle with, is that your parents are not perfect. Is that your dad or your mother are flawed. They're human. And sometimes for some children, and some even when they get older, they have a hard time accepting it, and I'm in the midst of it. But what I'm talking about, a traumatic experience, is simply my birth mother not being around, and how that affected me. And I grew up denying it. I grew up trying my hardest to ignore it, to not let it affect me. There would be times, I remember, where I would be in school, whenever I would see one of my classmates, run up to their mother, or their mother greets them with a hug and a kiss on the head, shows love and affection. I would always double back on it, and just think I wonder how that would I wonder what that feels like. Not to throw my own mother figure under the bus, because my grandmother showed me love and affection. I call her my mother. But I don't know if it's just me, but there is a thought in the back of my head that always crutches on the reality of it. They're like, yes, she is your mother figure. She took on the role of being your mother. She has earned the title of being your mother. But deep down, she is not. And up until recently, I started to believe that. I started telling myself that as a way to beat myself down, to blame myself for my birth mother leaving. And and because of that, because of beating myself down so much over the years, it was fairly easy to hold grudges, and it was easier to not trust people, to not make friends, to isolate myself, because all I kept telling myself was, it's your fault. And that tends to happen with kids who don't understand the full picture of their parents leaving and stuff like that. Because when I was younger, I didn't understand it. The only thing I knew was she left. Of course, as a kid, this perspective of your parents are supposed to take care of you. They're supposed to stay with you. They're supposed to love you and care for you, risk their lives for you, etc., etc., right? The unfortunate reality of it is, no, they're not supposed to. That's a society. I don't know if I'm saying this right. A society construct, but that's what society tells us that your parents are supposed to. And I do agree in the sense of like, yes, if you have a child, it is your responsibility to take care of your child, right? You as a parent, you bear that responsibility. And you know, my birth mother did not hold that responsibility very well. And when I got in contact with her when I turned 18, her reasons I did not agree with. She was dealing with depression. She had her own troubles, and I did understand it as someone who does have experience with depression, but I couldn't accept those reasons. I think a part of me just wanted to hold on to that anger. Another reason was just in my mind, I was like, okay, this wasn't like my birth was not accidental. This was a conscious decision from you and my father to have kids. So you knew what you were getting yourself into. You have two children, you have two kids before me. Mind you, she had two kids before me and my brothers from a different marriage. So for you to throw that reason in my face that it's, you know, it's because of your depression, it's because of the troubles you've gone through. It's like, I understand it. You know, I do feel I feel bad, right? That someone has to go through that. But no, to me, that's not a good enough reason. And especially to not show up at all. You didn't make a single effort. She didn't even put a single effort into, you know, fighting for custody or trying to see us or anything of the sorts. A question I had in my mind also was, you know, did my father try to stop her? Did my father try to limit her from seeing us? And with evidence, it proves that no, he did not try to hold her. In fact, he encouraged her to see us. He even told her kids from the previous marriage that, hey, if you're still in contact with your mother, she come see her kids, her 3 boys. Not once, not letter, no email, no nothing. The only time she sent us a letter was like a few days before my birthday. Actually, she sent a letter, and in the letter kind of implied that she was still thinking about herself. I read it as selfish, and the reason why was because in the letter there was a bunch of I's. It was always like, oh, I want to share with you what I have gone through. Nothing in the letter was, how are you? What have you been up to? I want to hear about your upbringing. How is your life going? The letter was just about what I've gone through. Look at what I've done when I left you guys. It's like, no. I do wish I didn't hold so much anger, but I didn't know any better. That's a traumatic experience among others in my life that has affected me. And of course, if I had a choice, I would choose not for this to affect me as much as it has. But the reality is, trauma, you don't get to choose what traumatizes you. The only choice you have is once it gets to you, it's whether or not you let it bring you down or you use it to propel you forward as fuel in your goals and ambitions and dreams. Use that trauma to help you grow into a better person, into a person you want to be. I wanted to share that because I am aware that there are some of my viewers do struggle with a similar battle that I have gone through or am still going through, and I have no problem talking about it more in a later video, but I just wanted to talk about this aspect of it. For you viewers, you know who you are, to view it as thunderstorms and rainbows, right? Both do not last forever. So whenever you're in a shitstorm, it'll pass. When there is a rainbow, enjoy it. Enjoy that moment. Look at it. Stare at it. Stare at its beauty. If it makes you happy, it makes you happy. Enjoy it. Feel it. Embrace that happiness, that joy, that peace. And whenever that shitstorm comes, whenever you see the clouds starting to go gray and it starts raining and pouring and thundering, hurricanes everywhere, it feels like the world is crumbling, it'll pass. It always does. You just have to keep going. That's all I wanted to share. Hope you guys have a good one.